everyone, welcome back to the LegalEdge YouTube channel. My name is Mansi and today's session is by CLAT, that is the College Advisory Program, where our goal is to bring to all the law aspirants the real and student-led insights about the law colleges, which is not just limited to their brochures and marketing. So today we are going to have a real and candid conversation with students from BITS Law School who are going to share their honest journey starting from the admission process to campus life, internships and everything in between. So let's get started. Hi Radha, Nandana and Salil.
Hello.
Hi, nice to join you today.
Hi,
Thanks
hi.
for inviting.
So just to start the session, I would like you all to give me a brief introduction. We'll start with you, Radha.
Hi, my name is Radha Soni. I'm a first year student here at BITS Law School. I'm studying BA LLB Honors and I'm from Chhatrapati Sambhaji Nagar.
Okay. Nandana?
Hello, I'm Nandana. I'm currently in my second year of the BB LLB Honors program at BITS Law School. I'm from Chennai, Tamil Nadu. And at least in law school, I'm broadly interested in, let's say, subjects like constitutional law. But more recently, I've been exploring AI regulation and anything related to technology, data protection, and finance. And alongside academics, I've also been part of SAGE, which is Society on AI Governance and Ethics. Really interesting space to engage with some of these questions more practically. And I'm still in the process of figuring out exactly where I'd like to specialize. But I'm quite drawn to areas that sit within the intersection of law, technology, and public policy. That's all.
Great. What about you, Salil?
Hi everyone, I'm Salil Jain. I'm a third year BLLB honor student at BITS Law from Mumbai, and I'm very keen on corporate and financial law. I really enjoy studying the intersection of commerce and law, and I'm a very voracious reader when it comes to economics, history, politics, and that's why I was drawn to law because I had more of an attraction towards humanities and social sciences, and I felt law was a perfect profession for me to challenge me and to have a successful career path where I can also have social impact. So that's my brief background.
Okay. So let me just ask you the first thing that what was your first impression when you joined the college, when you came to the BITS Law College for the first time? What was that one thing that really stood out in the campus or in the curriculum or whatever you think was that USP, as I could say? So what was that one thing? I would this time like to start with Salil.
My first impression was on the quality of both the faculty and the peer group. So I found that our professors were very approachable. So I was in the founding batch. I joined BITS Law in 2023. So of course, when I joined, we did not have any seniors in the college because we were the first batch. But nevertheless, I never felt that that was lacking because all of our faculty who are absolute experts in their field and all have PhDs, they're top academics. They were always having an open door policy. You could approach them at any time. And I got to learn so much from them, not just in the classroom, but outside. And furthermore, I got to learn so much from my peers. I think one thing is that when you go to college, it's a big change from school. Most of your friends throughout 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, you get to know them. You're sort of from the same area, from the same city, similar backgrounds. But when you join college, especially when I joined BITS Law, I got to learn so much more from all of my peers who are from all over the country. So those were the things, just the quality of the people, both the faculty and my peers. That's what my great first impression was.
Okay. Radha?
For me, it's obviously like how we've always been told that no one cares in college, but here at BITS, it is everyone's so involved. Our faculty, our TRFs, even our seniors are sitting right here with me. Everyone's so approachable and everyone's just so involved in your progress. And you feel at home here. It's very homey and it's a very comfortable environment to grow in. And that's my USP here.
Nandana?
So I think I agree with broadly what Radha and Salil said as well. My first impression actually came more from conversations with seniors before I joined this college than anything else. A lot of what I heard was about faculty and the way that they approach teaching. And I think once I got here, I realized I was very accurate because it's a very different kind of learning environment that we have at BITS. It goes just beyond the course material. And a lot of what you take away from your college and your new courses and your subjects comes from class discussions, engaging with multiple perspectives, different point of views, and you sit together with conflicting viewpoints. And that was something that I actually hadn't expected in college, which really departs from your conventional method of learning in school. So,
Hmm. Okay. So another connected question that I have in mind after hearing your views about the college, the first impression that you all have had. Now that it's been a while that you have been here, you are some one of you is in the second year, then third year. So we have different perspective. So if you had to describe your experience as BITS Law College in just one word, what would that one word be and why? So Nandana?
so if I had to describe my experience in one word, I would say transformative.
Okay.
In a
And
very dramatic overnight sense, but in a way that, when you look back in a couple of years and you realize you're not quite the person that you walked in. I think most
Mhm.
of us came in here with a mix of expectations, doubts, and not a lot of clarity. And to be honest, the doubts don't completely go away, but they just become more informed. And you start thinking differently. You pick up different ways of expressing yourselves, and you work with people, you lead when you have to. And even though you don't have everything figured out, I definitely don't, you still, come away with a stronger sense of how you approach things. And so
Hmm.
I think that change isn't always visible on a day-to-day basis, at least for any of us. But over time, when you look back, I think it's very real. So yeah, I would say the experience has been quite transformative.
Nice. What about you, Radha?
For me, I'll use the word fundamentalizing. I feel my uni is completely reconstructing me intellectually and personally.
Hmm.
I would completely agree with Nandana how I came here with a blank slate. I've been always sort of like, if you're just starting something new, just come here with a blank slate. And how BITS is just filling it up in a very broader and in-depth sense. And yeah, I would use fundamentalizing.
Okay. And what about you, Salil?
For me, the one word I would choose is curiosity, because as much as you look to go to college for education to answer questions, you end up leaving with even more questions. So as I'm exposed to so many different disciplines and all of our curriculum, different readings, I feel that for every one question I answer for myself, I get 10 questions in its place. So curiosity is the main thing, because there you can be pulled in so many different directions when you come to the college. There are so many ways you can explore. So for me, curiosity was the main thing, the one word.
Okay. Um, so tell me, so all three of you come from different batches, right? One is in first year, second year, third year, so different batches. So I just want to know what kind of batches do you have? Like, how are your peers? Uh, do they usually come from a particular section of the country, or do you have classmates who belong to like various places in the country? And what kind of collaboration do you guys usually have in your batch? It is more of collaborative, or it is very competitive, or it is a good mix of both? So, Radha?
Well, I'm a first year student, and lot of my peers, it's a very diverse and secular peer group for me.
Hmm.
There are a lot of people from all the parts of the country, and what I would say, it is competitive in a very positive manner. It is collaborative in most sense, but there's also a very healthy competition that pushes us forward to do better, to be better at our studies, to be a good person in general. So the environment here within my peer group is really healthy. Everyone pushes everyone forward, and it's really supportive.
Okay. Salil?
Yeah, just echoing what Radha said. First of all, the student population is quite diverse. So I would say roughly maybe 40%, 30 to 40% would be from Mumbai, but the rest 50 to 60% of the students will be from all over the country. So some of my closest friends are from South India, North India, so from everywhere. So there's no one particular background of the students. And to just describe what the student culture is like, I would also agree that it is competitive to an extent. So in in legal education, there is a inherent level of competition when it comes to things like moot court competition or
Hmm.
altered dispute resolution competitions. And of course, it's a very academically rigorous curriculum. So we
Hmm.
all want to achieve and want to go higher, but it never goes into a negativity. And on the same token, it's very collaborative. The number of student societies and student clubs that are there on campus, I have entirely lost count. Whether people are exploring arts and culture, there could be a theater club, a film club where people are watching and reviewing films, or it could be a constitutional society or a society on AI governance and ethics, as Nandana previously mentioned, where we are delving more deeply into certain academic areas. So in all of these different disciplines, the students are able to come together and build each other up to pursue their interests. And uh, with more people, you're able to get a greater outcome than if you were to simply go into this area on your own. So I would definitely say it's competitive to a degree, but to for you all to reach the next level of accomplishment, and also collaborative, because we are in this together and nobody is there to take you down. So I would say that is the culture.
Nandana?
I think I really resonate with what they said in terms of, interacting with people who come from very different backgrounds. And that naturally brings in a lot of perspectives, right? And that shows up quite strongly in how you have academic and informal discussions. And at the
Hmm.
same time, the environment itself is comfortable. This is something that I know that all of us can agree on. It's that the anti-ragging framework at Law is taken very seriously. So there's always a baseline of respect with how, people
Hmm.
interact with each other, which makes it very easy to settle in. At least when you're a first year kid and you come here, it's a completely different city for you, different people, very far away from home. So there's always some sort of respect when people
Hmm.
interact with each other. And personally, I think Salil and Radha have covered most of it when it comes to informal spaces where we all sit together and talk. Something that we recently had, we have something called Betak, for instance, where people come together and they sit and talk about social issues very often. And it's not very formal, but those conversations always tend to stay with you. Sometimes you agree, you disagree, and then you debate. And I think that's what societies and clubs give you in a more consistent way. You get to engage with people who share similar interests, and that takes up most of your afternoons: meetings, competitions, and just club meetings. And that bonding happens in those smaller settings. You have
Hmm.
discussions and you're spending time with your friends. So overall, I think that's where most of the learning comes from in college. That's very distinct. I think that's for Bits Law School.
And I think it's really important when it comes to law schools, because apart from the bookish knowledge, like the knowledge that you gain out of such conversations, when you sit down with different kind of people who have come from different parts of the community, different sections of the society, you get to know about different perspectives from there. And that is very much needed when you want to pursue, especially law, and do something in the field of law. Great. I have this specific question for you, Nandana. Like how you mentioned, you are already in your second year. You're fairly settled. You have survived 1 year of law school now. So, how was it? Can you tell me how is your day like? Apart from just attending the regular classes, is there anything else when it comes to extracurricular curricular activities that you actively do?
So the way that the day is structured for an average BITS law student is it's quite different from other colleges as far as what I've interacted with my friends from outside.
Hmm.
You have your lectures that start at around 8:30 to 8:45. So it's always a rite of passage in the morning for you to see students running from the breakfast hall to the class, because we have to be on time there for attendance. And so our lectures take place between, usually it ends by 1:15, and on some days it extends to 4:30, but that's because we tend to have a packed semester. We're doing 52 courses that have 4 credits each. So we do tend to cover, most of our days do go into academics, and it is a very academically rigorous program as well. But outside, I think a wonderful thing about the college is how they really encourage societies and clubs. For example, I am part of SAGE, Society on AI Governance and Ethics. So we organize competitions inside BITS Law School for BITS Law students. We meet every week for a reading group session with faculty, or we just do a bunch of things. There's a writing team, there's a podcast team, there's a reading group team, there's a lecture series. We sit for lectures with industry experts. I'm part of student recruitment cell, which also meets bi-monthly to discuss plans for internships. So I think everything really ties back to law. and law school, and it's a distinct way to have fun, I think, in law school, when you're with a group of people who share the same interests that you do. It could be a finance society, it could be quite literally anything. So your evenings perhaps go away in meetings on some days, and on the other days you have your games room where you can go play some games. You have the gym. You have at night, there's a very active sports culture in Winslow. There are people playing baseball. We have cricket matches that happen. That's our local IPL. We just gather in the stadium. We watch people play sports. You join sports. So I think there's a lot of things that you can do, and there are all the doors are open for you. You just choose what you want to do. I think that's wonderful here. Away from we just have a lot of things to do.
Great. Okay, so Salil, now that you are in your third year and you've completed your fair share of internships now. So, firstly, to tell me how important do you think these internships are, right? And how important is it for a law student to get this real world exposure through internships during his law school journey? And also, can you once you like also tell me like how do you decide where do you want to intern and what is the process to secure these internships?
Okay, yeah. So I'm in my third year right now. So I have completed 6 internships so far, and
Hmm.
I've secured my next internship at a corporate law firm in Mumbai called Solomon and Co. So I'll be interning there this July. So the way it works is we have 2 semesters every academic year, and at the end of every academic year, we have a 1 to 2 month internship break. It'll be like a winter break and a summer break. During that break, it's expected that you do an internship. And the reason why we focus so much on internships between every semester we do internships is because, as you mentioned, especially in law, internships are very important. Because I would just like to draw a distinction there. You can have legal knowledge and then there is legal skills. So when you're in your lecture halls, you are in campus, you are doing your work, you build a lot of legal knowledge which is foundational to approach law. How does contract law work? How does torts law work? What is constitutional law? So you need to have this basic understanding. Then furthermore, as you do assignments in your college, you write research papers, you do a moot court exercise, so on and so forth, you start building your skills. But when you reach your internships, you realize that you have to apply your knowledge and you have to develop your
Hmm.
skills.
Hmm.
So for a lawyer, the two most important skills are research and drafting. Of course, if you go into litigation, then you also need to have good advocacy skills. But what is universal? Whether you are in a uh, multinational corporations corporate office, like I was at Aditya Birla Group's general counsel's office in a prior internship, whether you're in that kind of company or whether you're in an NGO. I was also at an NGO called Public Concern for Governance Trust, or whether you're at a law firm, a corporate law firm. Recently, I was at Khaitan and Khaitan. That was my last internship. Across all these different kinds of organizations, if you're there in a legal capacity, you need to be able to research well, access all sorts of legal databases to find case law precedents, to find the latest judgments, to navigate statutes extremely well, and then you need to be able to draft that. You need to be able to help a client writing an advisory note. You need to be able to write an internal memo for your organization. You have to write submissions to go to court, so on and so forth. So internships is where you really crystallize your knowledge and you start applying the knowledge and skills that you're learning while at college. So that's why I would say internships are very important. And taking a broader perspective, one's goal, of course, is once they graduate to be able to, secure their starting job and to embark on their career and their professional journey. So internship, when you're doing your internships, it also gives you opportunity to network with your seniors, uh, with professionals who have been in the industry for so long, and they can give you the practical advice and tips on how to navigate the industry. So for those reasons, your skill development, your networking, also to narrow down exactly what your interests are. You need to do a diversity of internships because just listening to something in a lecture, it might be very attractive to you. But then once you start working, you actually are going to courts, you're going to a Bombay High Court, or you're working in a corporate law office, you're attending a client meeting, you'll start seeing how that field is practiced in practice. So you'll understand, okay, you learn criminal law in a classroom, but then how do you go serve a anticipatory bail application to a police station, or how
Hmm.
do you go to court for that? Or if you're studying corporate law, then what is actually happens in a transaction? What is the due diligence checklist, so on and so forth. So all these kinds of experiences, they shape your interests as well. So for those reasons, I would say internships are very important and equally as important to your academic learning, because
Hmm.
it develops your skills, it helps you network, and it helps you narrow down your exact interest area as well. So that when you graduate and you start working, you're not surprised by the field you're entering. You have a correct expectation of how your work life will go. So that's why I feel the internships are very important. And absolutely, the college gives us full support for this. We have a industry interface cell or internship cell, and all of my internships so far, I have been placed through the internship cell. I express to them what area I'm interested in, and
Okay.
then they help match the students with the potential recruiters. So we send our resumes or CVs to the internship cell, and depending on the requirements of the recruiters and our own interests, they match us. And then depending on that particular recruiter, that particular company or law firm, we go through their interview process or whatever process they have, and then we get placed. So that is kind of how the internships work at BITS Law. It's a very critical part, and the college gives full assistance throughout the process as well. So yeah.
Okay. That's great. So Radha, so you are a national level gymnast, and as you mentioned, and you've also won quite a lot of awards and medals, multiple national medals, as I know. So, do you still get enough time and access in the infrastructure to continue pursuing your interest in sports, or is
Yes.
has that been overshadowed by your life at law school now?
Oh, well, I would agree 100% that I get all my time to focus on my sports as well. I would, as my seniors already mentioned, I would agree that we have a rigorous academic curriculum and we have to put a lot of energy into it. But BITS is structured in a way where we also have the liberty to do extracurricular stuff,
Hmm.
like how all of my seniors and all of my peers are in societies. I am not in a lot of them because I also have to focus on my sports. The infrastructure is absolutely great here because since I'm a long distance gymnast now, because I
Hmm.
can't practice back in my hometown, but I have to compete from there. So here I have a lot of equipments where I can actually train my body so that when the competition season arrives, I can go and directly participate in it. So BITS here has been fully supportive for my goals towards sports as well as law. So I would 100% agree that this place is for me. Matches all my, it ticks all my boxes and it helps me a lot in all my senses.
Okay. Uh, okay. So I would now like to know a bit about the admission process. So all of you must have applied. So Nandana, can you tell me about the application phase? Like, were there other? There must have been other colleges as well that you were considering. What were those top factors that ultimately made you choose BITS Law School?
So, if I'm being really honest, this might be a little different from what Radha and Salil might have to tell you. But law is never on one of my possible pathways. I've
Okay.
always wanted to go into economics and finance and management. So my college applications were a little more towards that field. I was a science student, and I was a little more, leaning towards that area.
Hmm.
And a friend of mine had already spoken to me about BITS. And what first stood out to me was the fact that they had an integrated curriculum. Usually colleges have a BA LLB program, and they had a BBA LLB program. So
Hmm.
the first 2 years of a law college are predominantly BBA subjects. For example, corporate finance, financial statements, financial markets, management, marketing, economics. So these are the kind of courses that we'll also be studying. And I've always been really a strong advocate on societal issues, and I thought, why not law?
Hmm.
So I don't have a very significant story as to why I chose law, but probably because the whole BBA aspect stood out to me, and that's perhaps why I decided to go with it. But in terms of applications, so there are multiple ways you can approach this. The conventional way is for you to write CLAT, and then using your CLAT score, you then apply to BITS Law.
Hmm.
But I did not write CLAT because I was not, planning to become a law student. That just happened out of nowhere. So you have something called a BITS Law entrance test that you can write. It's
Okay.
very similar to your CLAT. So it's, I think, graded out of 70. There are multiple components to it. So you have an aptitude component, you have an essay component, you have a little bit of general knowledge component. So they're just trying to assess,
Hmm.
in different areas, how well can you do. I think it's less of rote learning and more about reasoning, more about your general understanding of how, because you've just come out of 12th grade, they can't expect you to know much, right?
Hmm.
So trying to understand, if I put you in different situations, how are you, thinking.
Oh.
That's pretty much what the test tries to like look at aptitude. And so then is the actual admissions process. You fill out the application. I think beyond just your grades for your application, what really helped me out was the range of extracurriculars that I had. So if when I was in school, I was really glad that, I did focus on a bunch of extracurriculars. For example, I'm a dancer, I swim, I can play the keyboard. So these are all things that I did outside my academics that really helped for my interview or for my application process. That says, okay, there is a component of academics that you're good at, sure, but what is it that you can do outside? What are your other skills? What do you learn from each of the skill that you have? And sometimes that is dedication, and sometimes that's discipline, and the other times it's something simply just passion. So that really sets you apart, from a lot of people that think only academics are what's important. And I'm glad that Bitslaw isn't one of those places. But yeah, so that's your actual application stage, and then you have your interview stage. Usually it's taken by one of our faculty members.
Okay.
um, and if the interview is really laid back, it's not serious. I was actually nervous before my interview. What if, it's really strict, and what if they ask me really difficult questions? And candidly, I think Professor Vishwas took my interview. He's currently the dean at Wits Law School. And
Okay.
before that, I hadn't known that, he was Professor Vishwas. But I think during the interview, it was really, really laid back, that you really did not get a sense of anything that would make you nervous in that
Hmm.
position. So you start off with, basic questions about yourself, why Bits Law, and just what drew you to law. There are multiple stages within that internship, sorry,
Hmm.
within the interview. So they give you some situations, they put you on spot, and then they ask them, how would you, respond? And the good thing about subjective questions is there's no wrong answer. You can always, this is what I think, and this is why I think it. So that really tests, without pressure, your ability to think on spot. And I
Hmm.
think that attention to detail, that ability to come up with quick answers, these are things that are important, the important skills for you as a law student.
Hmm.
And even before interview, it's easy, it's quite easy to prepare for an interview, but for a legal career, I think these are some of the important factors which your interview kind of tends to assess you on. And yeah, it's a pretty simple process. And the good thing about it is the admissions team is always with you through every stage. So if you have doubts, you can reach out to them. They'll always get back to you and clarify.
Okay. Okay. So, Salil, can you tell me one moment during your law school journey at BITS Law School that has really stayed with you? Like something, any particular instance or thing that really made you understand that, okay, this was the correct choice and I made the right decision of coming to this college?
Yeah, so this is kind of a unique question for me because I was in the founding batch. I was the first year to join the college. So obviously there are no alumni, there are no students who are already at BITS Law. I was taking a chance by coming. And as you rightly said, there might be some uncertainty, is this the right choice or not? Uh, but all of my experiences since joining, they led me to believe, okay, this is a great college, where it really crystallized for me that one kind of memorable instance, if you're asking, it's last year in 2025. It was held over March 8th and 9th. We celebrated our foundation day. So that was our second year foundation day celebrating the founding of BITS Law. And what I really loved about that event, by that point of time, the second batch had already joined. So I was getting to see and interact with my juniors. But we had so many amazing dignitaries come to our college to address the students, to congratulate us, to interact with us, all from judges, very prominent jurists like Justice Hema Kohli, all the way to a film director, Mr. Anubhav Sinha. He's directed films which have commented on political and social issues like Article 15, Thappad, and so on. So just to see, we invited all of these guests and dignitaries, and they had an address with us. And I felt, being at that event, that the quality of all of the students, of my peers, of my juniors, how they were interacting with our guests, the question and answer, and I just saw how proud our faculty was of us, how these guests were, and it was really a proud moment for me, and that's when I really felt, okay, coming to BITS was a great decision, because just the opportunities we get over here. We had a wonderful campus. All the guests were really amazed by the campus. We got to interact with them, learn more about their professional journeys and career paths, get advice from them. So that moment really stuck out to me, I feel. And since then, it has been nothing but great as each semester goes by, as I'm taking new courses and my horizons are broadening, doing new internships, coming with a different perspective, all with the support of BITS Law. Every day I feel it was the right decision for me, at least. And yeah, that's what kind of has led me here. So
Okay, nice. So Radha, um, tell me something that stood out to you about the entire, like Nandana walked us through the entire selection process. There are multiple ways, and the interview is something that is mandatory. Like you have, every student has to have that personal interaction with one of the faculties. So during that entire process, during the entire selection process, what was that one thing that really stood out to you in the law school, and what, according to you, makes it unique?
For me, the interview process, as Nandana said, it's really laid back. And
Hmm.
I was interviewed by Ms. Kaveri Haridas, and she's one of our professors. And what I realized that they are not assessing me on how much I know about academics or how much I know, but they're assessing me about how I perceive the information. And that was really important to me. That they don't think that it's important for me to know everything. They think it's important for me to know how to know everything, to
Hmm.
get in the depth and understand and have your own perception. That stood out to me, that they're not assessing my intelligence, but they're assessing my intellectual ability. And that is something that stood out to me.
Okay, but in that interview process, as Nandana mentioned, that there were a lot of also situational questions that you guys are put through, right? So, and as like very correctly pointed out, that there is no correct or incorrect answer. You just have to tell them about your thinking, and whatever point you take, whatever stance you have in that, you have to defend that, right? But during that course, was there at any point of time where you realized in the middle of it that no, I'm not going right? So, how did you handle that situation? If you were not able to come up with an answer, or whatever you said, the faculty very quickly countered it, and now you
Mhm.
do not have any answer to that. How do you cope up with that?
Oh, for me personally, I don't know about everyone, but for me personally, when I realize that something's not right or someone has a very negating opinion about it, for
Hmm.
me, I really respect a negating or a contradictory opinion. I listen to them, and if I think that, oh, that aligns more with how I should be thinking about it, I would agree with them. But if I still have my own contradictions, and I would go about what my conviction about that topic is. But in the process of interview, I did the word network was given to me. Like, what do I think about the word network? Now, I am confused at what network. Are we talking about the Wi Fi, or are we talking about networking? I was confused right then and there. Okay, what is happening? So it was, the faculty was so kind enough that I just genuinely asked them, ma'am, what network are you talking about? That was the basic question you can ask someone, that what are you actually talking about?
Hmm.
And I think questioning and putting yourself out there when you think that something's not right or you can't answer that, I would say that that is important. That put yourself out there. No one's judging you for asking questions, especially in the law field.
ठीक है. Okay. So, so since we are doing this session for a lot of other law aspirants who are currently seeking admission into law schools, there is one such question which these aspirants usually have. Salil, I would want you to answer this. They're always curious about, like, to know if there is any scholarships available at the college. Like, so are there any scholarships available at BITS Law School? Did you explore them? Do you have any kind of personal agenda, you have any personal knowledge about it, and how accessible or helpful do you think these scholarships are for a student who wants to seek them?
Yeah, definitely. So I am currently on a merit scholarship. The way it works is, at least this is when I applied. I'm not sure if it has changed now, but I believe they are continuing with this. So you don't apply separately for a scholarship. You apply through the normal process, and then based on your academic merit, based on it's a very holistic process. As Nandana and Radha mentioned, you go through the interview process. You have your standardized test marks, like whether it's CLAT or the BITS application, your extracurriculars. Based on that entire profile that they make of you, they offer you a certain scholarship. That's based on a percentage of your fees. And then then there are specifically grants as well, and those grants are like a full fee waiver. So those grants go to students who have shown some sort of exceptional academic merit. Like, let's say there is one grant for uh, for the student who has the highest score on a standardized test, like let's say a highest CLAT mark.
Hmm.
There's another grant which is promoting legal education for women. So there's a specific grant that goes there. So there are different names of these grants. There's like a GD Birla grant, so on and so forth.
Okay.
Students can check this out on the on BITS's website. But just as a general rule of thumb on how to approach scholarships, uh, like if you're in need of a scholarship, try your best through the application process, and based on your uh, merit, you'll be able to gain a scholarship. There won't be a separate process for that. And if you require some further assistance or aid, then I do think they offer some plans when it comes to the fee payment. Like there is student aid available where you can take out loans and other things. But uh, and you asked about accessibility as well.
Hmm.
Their goal is to make it as accessible as possible for the most meritorious students. So
Okay.
if you are an extremely meritorious student, and you feel that you will be a great addition to BITS Law, then you don't need to worry, because there's a very high likelihood that you'll get a scholarship. And they are very generous with scholarships, to the extent that there are very high percentage scholarships given, like a fee waiver, let's say 50% or 75% scholarships to a lot of students. It's not like it's only to very few students that it's given. If you have shown that you are very meritorious to your application, then there is a high likelihood that you will be offered a scholarship of some kind. And yeah, that's kind of how the scholarship process works.
Okay, so it's pretty much easily accessible for the students, and the good thing is that there's no like very complex process that everyone has to follow. It just follows through. It's aligned with the admission process, and they can get the benefits while they apply, something that is really great. Okay, so want to ask all of you, if there is one thing, one advice that you would want to, if you could go back and give yourself, you pre Bits Law School, Radha, Nandana, and Salil, one piece of advice from for that particular time when you were applying for the college, what would it that be? And something that could really also help the students who are currently ongoing the process of their application. So, what could that as advice be for them?
So I
Radha.
can
Okay, nee, Salil, you can start.
Yeah, I can. I just have a small advice. This has already been echoed by Radha Nandana earlier, but don't underestimate the interview. Even if you feel that you might be only an average or above average student in terms of marks or in terms of your CLAT score or your entrance test score, the chance that you really have to make a strong impression is during your interview. Because what BITS is looking for, it's much more holistic. It's not just you meet a certain cutoff. Your academic performance is only a qualifier. If you meet a certain threshold, then it's not more advantageous that you're even more of a academic scholar. Then at that point, it becomes much more about your extracurriculars and how well you interview. And if you can really make a strong impression in your interview, you can convey your personality well, you can convey your values well, then there's a very high chance that you'll get selected. So again, just speaking from my personal experience, our founding dean, Dr. Ashish Bhardwaj, he was the founding dean. He in fact told me after I got admitted that for me personally, what sealed my admission was my interview. So all aspects of my profile were good, but what really sealed the deal for me to enter BITS was my interview. This is the feedback that I got from the admissions committee, the admissions panel. So just for all students, don't take too much pressure. As Radha and Nandana have mentioned, the interview is more casual. They're trying to gauge your personality, but I feel that that's one area where it's your time to shine. So if you have qualified through all of the rounds, you've made it through the shortlist where you've gotten your marks and your standardized scores, and you've gone through that. Uh, you really have a good opportunity in the interview, even if you're not the highest percentile scorer, or even if you are, that's your time to shine and to see your admission. So I would really mention that as a highlight.
Okay. Radha?
For me, I would take the advice my dad gave me. He always told me that choosing fit over prestige. So, due to my CLAT rank, I did get into NMUs. I did get into, I had a good CET rank, so I did get into GLC, ILS, all the prestigious colleges, the brand names. But the second I walked into BITS, I was like, this fits me better. This fits my personality better. So,
Okay.
everyone out there, just one thing to always keep in mind is what fits you, what do you think is going to motivate you to be a better person and achieve more in life. And I feel BITS has done that for me, so I chose BITS over brand name. As Salil already said, that BITS does not have a passing out badge. There is no uh, there's no result, there's no statistical data of how this goes, but I chose my gut that this is a better fit for me, and I would literally encourage everyone to choose what's better for you rather than chasing brand names.
Okay. And how about you, Nandana?
I think fairly, my peers have covered most of the points, but if there's one thing that I'd like to emphasize on, is that not everything is about marks. So I know a lot of my peers, and even back when I was in school, it was always about that getting that top percentile. But the truth is, if you really want to say do well in a law school, definitely academics are more important, because marks do, show your consistency, show your ability to think a certain way. But what really matters for when you're in school, if younger people are listening to this when in their 9th, 10th grade at least, is the fact that they keep doing what they like doing. For example, in my portfolio, I had a really strong writing skill. I used to write a lot of blogs. And even if it wasn't, anything big, I used to start writing on social issues that I found interesting. And gradually, when I was in law school, that translated into me writing paper for conferences, and these became easier skills for me because I'd already been doing what I like doing. And I used to go to a lot of these MUNs, I used to do a lot of these debates. And so when you're in law school, you just have a better forum, and you have a channel to, hone that skill of yours. That could go into your debate competitions, your moot court competitions. So, and I think always you have to take time in life to make time for our passions, what really keeps us happy. That could be dance, that could be just a sport, or that could be an instrument, and anything like that. So in any way, for you to have a holistic profile, like Salil said, what's important is you do a bunch of things outside academics that shows that I'm not really here just to show that I can have a good grade on the paper.
Hmm.
But there are a bunch of things that I'm capable of outside that adds to who I am as a person. And I think that's going to help you throughout, at least for me in law school. The fact that I'd spent a lot of time doing extracurriculars and clearly just doing things that I liked, it translated into skills that I would, use as a lawyer. Maybe I'm not at the height of those skills yet, but I find it easier because I had some kind of a head start in it before. So I think that's pretty much what I'd like to say.
Okay. Salil?
Uh, earlier, as I had mentioned, the advice was to focus on the interview. That's really your chance to shine. So I would just reiterate that.
Okay. Chalo. That's great. Thank you so much, everyone. That brings us to the end of today's session. Special thank you to three of you, Radha, Nandana, and Salil, for sharing such honest and helpful insights about your journey at the BITS Law School. And I really hope whatever you guys have just told us give us a clearer picture about the entire journey, starting from the admission process, about the campus life, and the overall experience in the college, to the law aspirants who are currently in the process of seeking admission in a good law school. Right. So, thank you so much for joining in, and all the best, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much for having us.